Hi everyone, it's K-Red, and we made it. This will be the last video of this 7-part series where we took a blank paper and turned it into a fun art project. We did all kinds of doodles, looked through our peaceful patterns for inspiration, and now it's just the final touches, the last little bit, and some shading. So please enjoy me as we celebrate the end of this project. I know I don't know I have, but I can only assume that I have on previous ones gone through and made these thicker, but I'm just going to keep doing that so it continues to have the nice solid. This one is the nice solid. I am going to go ahead for that one though and go to a bigger pin, and I'm going to make that even bigger still. I have my 1/0 pin. And covering up some of the leaves, no problem. There. I almost wish that I had made this into like one of those and had these all come off of it, but that's okay. I'm still content. I got my little flower guy down here. I'm not going to put a stem on him. I am going to let him float. And I don't think I'm adding anything into it. I had thought about continuing the dot theme and having dots along the bottom, but I don't think I'm going to. Alrighty, let's see where we want to shade next. So I would think this would be my next spot to shade. I will want to shade on my stem as it comes in and goes out. And I'm thinking of having it, I'm contemplating having it backwards, putting the shade on the outside in, but I don't think that's going to look right. So let's put down a little bit of pencil. I'm using, this is an HB. Let's stop with the HB and let's go to a 4B so I can leave a much softer line on the bottom. Especially if you have like a little flat line, take a piece of paper, rub it just a little bit, get a little bit of a flat line so you don't have a point, a nice flat side. I'm going to stick with a tortillion this size. I'll go ahead and blur it out just a little bit. And then what if I give them all like a little sunbeam line on them? I'm not sure if I'm going to like that in the long run, but I can easily undo it with an eraser. So see what I think of that. My shading very seldom follows nature. So with nature, you would have a sun point here. You would shade on the opposite side. What would be higher would do it or not. I don't. That is not usually how I shade. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of that sunbeam. So we'll go through and clean that up. But I always want to give myself the permission and the freedom to try something new, especially when it's with a pencil. When you try something new with a pencil, you've got very little to lose. As long as you have a nice soft touch, and the blending stick of course did, then I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to a different blending one that's just a little bit thinner, much nicer, and just a little bit out. Going to want a light spot in between each stem. What do you think? Okay. So let's go ahead and do these the same way we did those. So I'm going to go back to my 4B I'm going to put a nice healthy line on the bottom of each. I like these to have a pretty decent blur. And then just a little bit for the stem. Trying to be careful not to, oops, turn my paper on you. Awful high, so we're going to clean off our tips so their tips are still white, and anywhere where I got a little overzealous, and they'll clean up that white rim. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to these. Now on these, what I normally would do is I do a shade on the underneath of that triangle, but I think I'm also going to want to shade underneath this flower. How do you think that's going to turn out? I'm not exactly sure. I'm picking up the wrong end of that pencil. And I think I can just clean up the base like that, so that hopefully that gives a bit of a blur along the outside of them. And I like that, especially since I got a pretty decent white space here. As I have dirt on my tortillon, I'm going to come over here to these flowers and give them a nice outline as I have that. So I'm not sure that any of these really need that much more. We'll put a little bit under each hood to help accentuate that. And a little bit around the outside of that. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Clean off my thing with using it for that. So let's go ahead. I know originally I believe I was going to work this way. Today what feels right is to work this way. So do whatever your emotions feel at the moment, whatever feels right at the moment. Picked up that HB again. Let's go back to the 4B. That's my favorite shading pencil. I'm going to give these a little bit wider and a very soft touch on the bottoms because these are super long. And I'm going to want them to look like they're going inside of each other. I think I'm going to go back to my larger tortillon. I have a tendency to shade very lightly, trying to encourage myself and work a little bit harder on doing a darker shade. I can always mute it a little bit. Plus, in person, the shade always looks more than it does when I'm editing it on TV. So I look at TV, I'm all like, you're not even putting a shade underneath it. Like here, I don't know that you can even see it. But in person, I can see it very well. So that's kind of crazy the way that works, but okay, let's do the same over here because this one goes off the page, but maybe give it a little bit right there. Big one. the direction that you pull the pencil does make a difference. So sometimes I will go horizontal across it. So if this is vertical, it's not the way I'm holding my paper, but if this, I'm going to go across it like here when I want it to fill it in, and then when I want to pull it out so it gradually, so it kind of graduates out, so it diminishes, then I'll pull straight out the direction that I want it. I was hoping to avoid, see how that like stops at a line? So I was hoping to stretch that out so it doesn't stop so much as a straight line. I feel like that does it right there too. I think I'm going to continue this outside shadow on my flowers as I dirty up the tortillon. So this one's a little hard for me to know how to shade this one. So I don't think I'm really going to. There's nothing left on this pencil. I was just hoping to do it a little and see what it would look like, have a vague idea of what it would look like, and I don't think that it will have much of an effect at all. So for these, I think what I'd like to do is get out one of these little sandpaper blocks, and I'm going to take an even softer pencil. Let's see what I have. There's a 12B, so this is a very soft pencil, and I'm going to add some on here, and you can see how really loose it is. Then I'm going to take my pencil, my tortillon, excuse me, not my pencil, and dirty it up so I have plenty of dirt on it. And I'm thinking I'm shading on the bottom of each. So the process, my thought process, correct me if I'm wrong, well, the artists who are able to stick with me, I appreciate you so much. My theory is if I continue on with the same process within this of where my shades are, that it will make more sense rather than sporadically maybe doing it underneath on one and then on the right on the other or something like that. I don't know. But that's my thought process, to do it on that side, and then let's do the left side. So then I guess that would mean my light would be to the top right of this paper if I was attempting to follow some good rules. Of course, putting it on the bottom of one pretty much puts it on the top of another, so see how dark that one was? We can come back and smooth that out and correct that. By putting it the loose graphite, I could use loose graphite if I didn't make such a mess of everything. Loose graphite to me is very messy. I'm going to switch to another pencil that's a little bit cleaner. It's got a little bit of a point on it. Let me see if I can get that to go away. Okay. Blend it just a little bit more. Sometimes, often, I hold the paper farther away from me so it can have a little bit of a different perspective on it, and it can look a little bit different, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to go ahead and smudge all of this below this line so that it will all seem to be behind. Then yeah, I think I'm okay with that. While I'm doing things like that, and I have this pencil, I think I'm going to do the same thing underneath this line. When you first put it on, touch a little softer and then go and more pressure when you know how much graphite you actually have on and maybe you're satisfied with that amount. You don't have to go back and erase over something. So like right there, I did super soft, but now I'm a little more comfortable with what's on there. I'm going to go stronger. And then I'm going to go ahead, maybe just fade into all of this so that all of this is kind of recessed. Can always come back with my eraser and clean up any areas that I think need to be. Alright, that's cool. Let's go ahead and do the HB pencil, the strong pencil, and let's go ahead and put a nice strong line here. I'm probably not going to pull this one out, although I will probably smooth it out just a little bit. But I'm actually applying some decent pressure so I can have a very solid line, almost thickening that pen line. And then I'll come back, and then like I said, I'm just blurring it amongst itself. I'm not pulling it out onto the paper. No, I don't want that there. It's too close to the outside where it is. Let me grab my little baby eraser. I'm going to want that to stay white and clean. And so then maybe with just my tortillon we'll color in the middle. What do you think? Have the middle. And I do think this needs to blur out just a little bit more. So I'm still going sideways on it. I'm not pulling it out, but I am extending out the circle that is shaded. And I think what I would like is some HB underneath it all. So the whole thing will pop out. Oops, that was a little farther out than, oops, that was much farther out than I intended. So let's erase those and clean those up right away. I use quite a bit of eraser in my pen work. Kind of funny, isn't it? I don't think most people use any eraser in their pen work, but for me, I find that it makes it enjoyable and it allows me to make mistakes. And we'll have to see if I'm going to blend this one at all. I may just let this just stay as a hard pencil line. We'll see what it looks like when it's all done. Yeah, that's not bad, right? You see a little bit of a white gap in there, so blur that just a little bit to help get rid of that white gap. If you do a lot of shading or a drawing that is all pencil, you can get a spray on it afterwards when you're all done and don't want to make any more changes on it, when it's exactly the way you want it. That can help set that pencil, because now this one that has so much pencil work on it, if you put a piece of paper on top of it, you're going to have a transfer and it's going to rub this and blend it more, and you're going to lose some of the white spots that you've worked so hard to try to create and entertain and preserve. So if this is something you're going to want to keep, this is something that for a gift or for an artwork that once you're done, if you've done some pen, you don't have to worry about it. It just dries and you're good. But if you've done a bunch of shading or you've done something with some pencils, that is definitely an option that you can use. So now that brings us to here. So typically what would happen here, let's do our HB pencil, is just a little bit going in and out of each one. And there's so many, that's going to take me a minute to add to that eye play of this being a ribbon that's going in and out. Now it would be fun, I'm not going to, but it would be fun to have done a design on these ribbons or to make these ribbons larger and done something in that white space. I could continue my kind of dot theme and do dots in there, but that is not, I am not going to do that. I don't think that's what I would like. I think I have kind of added enough, more than enough kind of distraction and fill on this, where we'll be better off with it being left open rather than even busier of a page. This is a very busy page. I've had a lot of fun on this page. I've had a lot of fun using these patterns, deciding what to draw next, deciding how to shade. It has brought me joy and calm and relaxation that I really appreciate. What do you do with your drawings when you're done with them? I keep a few up around my little drawing room. We have a spare bedroom now that our boys are grown and on their own. We have inherited the spare bedroom, which I use as a guest bedroom, but I have a corner where my drawings table and computer are, so I keep a couple up around the room so that I can be reminded of the work I have done, the inspiration, and the joy of it. But for me personally, this is not about, I'm just giving me my white spot in the middle on the ones that maybe I got a little too big on the blending. For me, this is not about the finished product though. This is about the act of doing it. So on this one, where one goes under the other, I'm going to add some shading there. I'm using just that same dirty tortillon. And on the bottom, I'm giving it some nice shade there. This one, to me, the shading should always go on those circle lines behind it. I think that is what helps show the movement. Put just a little bit more on there. Oops, got a big fuzzle on the end. Touching it lightly at first. So because these areas are so small, I'm actually working on blending the whole thing and then accenting a line in the middle with the eraser, which I don't even think it's going to show because I think it's just going to be too small of an area. So there's that. What do you think? Is there anything you would do differently? Shall we take a quick second and talk about some of the wins and losses in my opinion, and maybe you could let me know what some you think are. I enjoyed these very much. I enjoyed these suns. I enjoyed this flower. I enjoyed this section. I did not enjoy the little mandala circles nearly as much as I thought I would. When I first started, I thought those would be great fun and that they would play out and pop. And I don't know if it was just me that day or this project, but they are not my favorite spot. This is probably my least favorite, these two. This I thought would be, but it has grown on me a little bit. I'm not real sure why. That's probably my favorite one. that I did. And I just love the way that looks, like the sand swirls continuing into it. So I love like those two together. I like the way this flower became this stem, and wish I would have done another one, although I am very glad I put a bearded flower in, so that made me smile. So please, thank you so much for being with me on this project. I know it's been a long one, but it's been a lot of fun working on it with you all. If you could subscribe to my channel, you sure would help my little channel grow. I'd appreciate it. Hit the like button. Stay safe, find joy, and we'll be seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.